Shalom, family. We are back on this beautiful Sabbath. We have finished one of our Sabbath sessions by continuing reading the book of Leviticus. And today we started with Leviticus chapter 12, and we read through Leviticus chapter 17. So we're going to go into discussion and speak about what we have come up with through Leviticus chapter 12 and 17, what spoke to us the most.
So, what stood out to me the most in chapter 16 of Leviticus was verse 21. And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and their transgressions and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. So I think this stood out to me because I think what I was trying to say was that he was taking all the sins from the children of Israel and putting it into the goat. So now the goat is sinful, and then he sent him away.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add? Anybody want to add, Aaliyah?
What stood out to me was Leviticus chapter 17, verse 7. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a horn. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout the generations. I thought this was good because the Lord letting them know that they need to that they shouldn't be like seeking the devil or basically praising him and his things and stuff, and they should go after him, and so it'll keep the generations clean.
Okay. All right. And I think this was a good one too because it went into, because in chapter 16, it spoke about Aaron offering up a sin for his children. Remember his two sons that did what they did. And then in 17, it goes about for the entire congregation, right? Because the congregation had been wholeheartedly, not all of them, but a lot of them, so far, a lot of their trespasses have been offering up sacrifices, and just in general, they had been praising false idols, right? They had been committing idolatry. They had been whoring, right, against these false statues and things of these sorts. And so God, this is him saying that not only do you need to put them away, but there should be no sacrifices going to anyone but me. And now they're about to do an offering, and then basically saying that this was going to be something that was going to happen every year. So every year they were going to have a specific sacrifice for the cleansing of the entire congregation for the statues that they have broken, which were the false idolatry and just in general. Basically, like making it a team thing, right? Coming together before the Lord and coming in front of the altar with the main priest and doing their sacrifice for the entire congregation for any of their sins, primarily for their previous sins, which was false idolatry, right? Idolizing someone other than the Most High God. Anything else you guys want to bring up that stood out to you?
Another thing that stuck out to me was chapter 16, verse 29. And it shall be a statute forever unto you that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls and do no work at all. So I thought that was interesting because how the Lord established a day for like basically another Sabbath.
Yeah.
That basically you should no work, and no one should do no work for you and stuff. I thought that was interesting. It's just very specific.
Yes, a very specific time and day that we are taking Sabbath at the same time with that covering of that offering, right, in the tabernacle. So yes, so it's saying the 7th month on the 10th day, you are following Sabbath. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I had one more thing
Mm-hmm.
on Leviticus chapter 14,
Okay.
verse 4. Then shall the priest command to take for him that is to be cleansed 2 birds alive and clean, and cedar wood and scarlet
And hyssop.
hyssop.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the 2 birds they were talking about was the 2 turtle doves.
Okay. And why did that stand out to you?
Mm.
Or why do you think it spoke out to you the most? Because remember, this was talking about what? The cleansing of the leprosy? And then how he was putting it into law, how it works, right? How the priests would do the cleansing of the leprosy specifically.
What's the leprosy?
Especially if, like, if you catch something and it's something that, doesn't have, or I mean, not doesn't, that it does. If it's something that's contagious or can be passed on to other people, or something that you can't get rid of, right? It's like a permanent, it's something. Then they put you down in the CDC, even if it is something you can get rid of. So the CDC takes note of it. So if you end up going to the doctor's office or someone else does and they name your name, like, they're gonna find out they will track you down, right? Find out who you are and let you know, like, hey, you've been in contact with someone who has whatever this, thing is, and you need to get treated for it. And then they've even made laws. So now, like, if you don't, you know what I'm saying? If you have some specific, disease or whatever it is, and it's something that can be passed on to other people, you can get charged for that. Because if you knowingly know you have something and you passing it on to other people, because you're not, that now that's a crime. But in these times, that is telling you, like, you're unclean, you need to wash your clothes, you need to wash your hands. Like, they just breaking it down for you. Anywhere you sit at. Now you see why when I go in the hospital and the clinic, like, these are the filthiest places on earth. They're covered in whatever. Like, they're filled with whatever. So when I go in a hospital, if I've ever had to go in a hospital or in a bus, like where it's a bunch of public places where so many people are at so many times, the first thing I want to do is barely enter my house. I'm taking off everything, because your clothes, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And you got a lot of people doing this. They ain't read Leviticus a day in their life. That it's just common sense that, if you've been around a bunch of people and they could be ill and stuff, that stuff can pass on to you. And the sad part is this is why God gave us this, for those of us who are with spirit, who are in part of the God's covenant Israel, um, you know, Israelite, should I say. We supposed to be keeping this law because it keeps us from these things happening and from them spreading. So now you have that knowledge. He's saying if you sit on your camel, if you sit on your donkey, right? If you breaking it down for you, because everything now that you touch, when you have this unclean spirit, when you have this, plague, as they called it, this unclean until you get healed, until the priest heals you, until you get your, get what you need so that you're healed. You need to stay away from folks.
Yeah.
People need to stay away from you. You need to stay away from people. Period. Point blank. There's just nothing about making someone feel some type of way. Like, this is this is safety measures being placed here for a reason. So a whole bunch of other people don't end up with becoming a real plague. Like, it could be from one person down to a multitude of people. Why? Because you didn't want to practice cleanliness. So that's what stuck out for me, or this is what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
And he should say that. So for me, what stood out was in chapter 14, verse 13. It says, "And he shall slay the lamb, the priest, in the place where he shall kill the sin offering." And it says, And remind you, the lamb is for the trespass offering. And the trespass is basically symbolic to what you did to even encumber the sin. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So trespass means to be somewhere you're not supposed to be, right? And so trespass offering, that's when you've done something or something maybe has come upon you that, you know, that you shouldn't have done or shouldn't have happened. So that's the trespass offering.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, in the holy place, for as a sin offering is the priest. So it's saying this is what the priest is doing. And so is the trespass offering is the most holy. It's saying it's the most holy. Why? Because it has the most meaning, right? Because this is why we're even doing the sacrifice in the first place. Because mind you, it mentions, right, it'll mention the lamb, it mentions the turtle doves and the pigeons, and they all represent something, but it's telling you that the lamb, right, because the lamb is a very holy vessel in these times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they also represent a form of innocence too. But the lamb is saying that's what's the trespass offering, so that's what they're using. And in chapter 16, it goes in on verse 1. The Lord spake unto Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they offered before the Lord and died. And the Lord said unto Moses, Speak unto Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat. It says, which is upon the ark, that he die not, for I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. It says, Thus shall Aaron come into the holy place with the young bullock. So it's basically saying Aaron need not come around here until he ready to offer up for himself, for his two sons, and for the congregation, right? Because he don't want him to end up with like his two sons right at this time. But what stood out to me too within chapter 16 is something that has been mentioned so far throughout, you know, Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus, is that it always says something in the lines of the congregations, the offerings. So basically, it's telling us that the animals that they're using for these offerings are separated from the animals that they may have be using for other things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So they're using them to, you know, make clothing, to sell at the market, you know, for anything else that they're using or have their animals for. That's separate from when they have to make an offering. So the congregation is so basically saying that they have aligned a certain amount of cattle, right, and fowls specific to the offerings for the entire congregation. And then also it goes into, because it also mentions how, you know, with the man, like, or if someone is to come for an offering for their uncleanness, like the with the leprosy, it was saying like if the man couldn't afford to, you know, to use a specific animal, that they could replace it for something else and stuff like that. So that means like that they're bringing in, you know, their own too, for an offering. That's payment to the priest, right? But it's also showing too, like, okay, even if you may not be able to afford, because not everybody could afford to have specific cattle or fowls. You know what I'm saying? And but it's saying like even if they can't afford to, that they're going to be able to figure it out. Like there's a way to figure out how they can make payment, how they can have something to offer up, you know, as retribution for the offering. So that stood out for me too. And the other one, there's a couple of them, but you kind of spoke on that about the Sabbath, the additional Sabbath, and about it being everlasting statute. So, but for me, verse 28, chapter 16, it goes into the burning of the clothes. So with the whole, after the offering in the leprosy or any form of the plague, right? He's talking about how they have to wash the clothes before they come into the camp, right? Mm-hmm. And then once they find out whether they're clean or not, or they have been healed, then they have to wash the clothes again. And that's only if, so it's saying wash it twice. But this is only if they even didn't find any flesh in the clothing. This is just because you wore it, but you had it. Do that make sense? So you have to wash it twice. Mm-hmm. But they waiting to see if you've been healed within that period, because if you're not, then it's going to get burned. Just like if they found flesh in it. Because if they find flesh in it, then they burning it. But they're letting you know that how they do the process. But yeah, so basically it's saying if they find the flesh in there, they burning it right away. Yeah. The clothing, whatever you touched. But if they don't find it in there, then it gets washed once, but then they wait. And if you were healed within that time frame, then they wash it again before you can get your clothing back. But if you don't heal within that 7-day period, then it gets burned. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because it's basically saying it was something more going on here, like this, whether it's flesh in here or not, this clothing. This is also why I be telling y'all be careful about clothing you receive, right, from people, because everything can carry a piece of somebody's spirit into it. Yes. Yes, I'm telling you, like, spirits, your ability to be attached to other people based off of touch, based off of clothes, whether they washed them or not, like, that stuff really is serious how it carries. Like, to some people, it may seem like very trivial, like, oh, that doesn't even make sense, but that's probably because they're not, attached. They don't have a full understanding of how that is, whether you're in God's covenant or not. So you can end up wearing, somebody who's not a part of your covenant can end up wearing things from someone who is. Mm-hmm. And that might give them some type of attachment to spirit and vice versa. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This is why you have to pray over a lot of stuff, not just your food. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to end up getting a transferring of, why do you think when they try to do things like witchcraft, and we're not talking about like how they tried to deem some of the stuff we were doing, that God gave us as witchcraft. We're talking about straight up real witchcraft, like when people be trying to do dark stuff, right? Mm-hmm. When people are trying to do dark things, they'll try to use a lot of your stuff. Oh, you'll see them in a book. Oh, pinch your hair and a piece of their clothes and their shoes, because they knew that your spirit was inside of that. Mm-hmm. And those things and I'm not saying none of that stuff work. I'm just saying that that's why they doing that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because that stuff is true. That you are, once you wear something. First of all, our hair are antennas. It's literally how we get information from the Most High God. Okay? Mm-hmm. So when divine is reaching out to us, that's not even just the hair on our head, it's the hair on all of our bodies. Mm-hmm. Why you think your hair stands up when you're cold or when you feel certain stuff and they're like, oh, the hairs on my body, they just stood up. Why? Because they're literally attached to your body. Like, they're literally attached to the outer world and the inner part of your body. So it's a transmission system. So when it picks up things that are going on the outer, it sends it to the inner. Literally receptors. Your hair are receptors. You know that, right? So it's transmitting things. So it's very well known that our hair is an antenna. Why do you think our hair, in the Bible tells you about pulling your hair, combing your hair? So a lot of our people, you would see them, they had afros. They had locks too, but they were afro people. These were melanated. This is why our hair defies the law of gravity. This is why is it reaching out to upwards for a reason. This is all spiritual. It's all connected to source. because it's gravitating towards reaching the higher power, to getting that message. But that's also why in here they were saying like to shave the hair and stuff like that too, because now it's unclean like everything else. It ain't gonna get the message, right? It ain't gonna get the right message anyway because it's unclean. And so, yeah, that I wanted to point that out. That's why they're telling you to cleanse these things, cleanse your hands, cleanse your clothes, cleanse your shoes and the people around you, and not to lay and do all these things with people, or with your stock or any of these things, because you need to get cleansed, and they have to figure out what the cleansing is and how far or deep the cleansing needs to go. So that's basically what chapters 12 through 17 was speaking about. Anybody have anything else they would like to add or ask?